Welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free and live Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone doing today? I hope all our dads had a lovely Father's Day, even if it was a bit more low-key than typical. We spent our weekend up at my husband's family cottage, which was lots of fun, but it was very hot. Us Canucks aren't built for the heat. And my kids were absolutely zonked by the time we got home. There's too much fresh air, too much heat, all wrapped into one. And we also had my 4-year-old's very small, family-only birthday party up there. I still can't believe that he's 4. Like, where has the time gone? Speaking of time flying, I don't know about y'all, but March felt like it took a year. April and May felt like they were actually about 6 months each. And June feels like it's been a week. I can't believe we're almost at July. I mean, June is always a super packed month for our family. Both of my parents have their birthdays in June. My youngest's birthday is in June. My wedding anniversary is in June. We just celebrated 9 years. And Father's Day. So it's just like one celebration after another for us. And I guess like time flies when you're having fun. All right, enough rambling. Let's get into it. First, allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Allana Robinson. I'm a parenting coach for parents of toddlers, preschoolers, and kindergartners. I help you understand why your children are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I also host the Parenting Posse Facebook group. And finally, I'm the creator and facilitator of the Parentability program where I help you raise confident, competent, well-behaved kids. Hey, Shauna! Thanks for being here with me tonight. So, something that a lot of my clients in parentability are struggling with right now, and I've noticed quite a few discussions in the posse about this too lately, is that now that things are slowly starting to open up, their children are becoming very easily overwhelmed by socialization. And for a lot of you, that has you really baffled. Like, they've been begging me to go to the park or to play with friends for the last 3 months. And now that they can actually do it, it's a hot mess. Like, they're crying, they're whining, they're running away, they're acting shy or aloof towards other people that they know quite well. They're showing off, they're being extremely silly, they won't listen. The list just goes on and on and on. So what's happening here? And how can we reintroduce our kids to socialization without having them fall apart? So the first thing that we need to recognize is that socialization requires us to use a lot of our skills at a very high level. When we're home with our parents and our siblings, and we have a secure attachment with our parents and our siblings, as most of our kids do, we rely on them to compensate for our weaknesses. This is a very specific process called the interbrain connection, and you can think of it kind of like a Bluetooth hookup between two brains. Our brains get in sync with the brains that we're most familiar with. And this has survival as well as developmental benefits because it allows our parents and siblings to bear some of our mental load, to do things for us that we can't do yet and that are too hard to do, which frees up our energy to learn and explore and generally level up, which is amazing. It is such a cool interpersonal function that we're capable of, but it's kind of working against us in this instance because we're also not meant to be around our parents and siblings all the damn time. We're supposed to, from a pretty young age, spend some time away from them on our own, where we have to rely solely on our own skills without anyone to compensate for us. And that hasn't been happening for the last 3 months. So our kids have gotten in this kind of bad habit of having us compensate for their weak mental tools, for their weak skills. And then suddenly, we're like, okay, we're going to reintroduce you to society, and whoa, suddenly I have to do this all by myself. But I haven't had any opportunities to practice it for the last 3 months, which when we're talking about a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, that's a good chunk of their life. So it's going to be exhausting for them. It's going to drain their energy very quickly because they haven't budgeted their energy keeping in mind that they're going to be around people who aren't compensating for them anymore, which is going to result in all of the hot mess behaviors I described at the beginning there. You know how to exercise better impulse control. I have to monitor not only myself, but everyone around me. I have to plan the plot of this game and follow it. I have to remember it. I have to negotiate toys. I have to think of something else to do when something that I want isn't available. All of those are executive functioning skills that they've been using while playing at home alone, but they have to use at a much higher level in public. The second thing is that socializing comes part and parcel with a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of noise to filter, a lot of social cues to read, a lot of visual stimulation that we aren't fully in control of, a lot of extra movement, and even a lot of smells even. Our kids have been living in a very artificially stable environment for the last 3 months because they've been forced to stay home and rarely leave. And even if this hasn't been the most enjoyable experience for you or them, you can't deny that your environment at home doesn't vary very much. Say that 10 times fast. It's generally, especially if you've been listening to me for any length of time, pretty consistent and predictable. And now you're going out in public again, and there's so much to process. There's so much to keep track of. There's so much to filter out. Even if you're just, for instance, taking them to the beach for the first time this summer, and you're still physically distancing yourselves, but you haven't really left the house since March. Not only are there other people to look at and reference and make sure that you're staying far enough away from them, not only are there new people and scenarios to negotiate, but there's all of these new sounds, there's all of these new sights, there's all of these new textures. It's just a lot to take in. Even if they're not brand new, they're just something they haven't experienced in the last 3 months. And it can overwhelm our sensory system pretty quickly. When you don't do something for a long time, you get less good at it. You get out of practice. It's like when I used to do early intervention, I had really lightning fast reflexes because I was used to having children who were in my care bolt on me or jump on other kids or otherwise do things with their body that needed to be mitigated to keep others safe or them safe. But after being out of that environment for a while, my reflexes have gotten lazy and I am not nearly as quick as I used to be. Because I'm not in situations daily anymore where I'm having to grab kids before they run into the street or otherwise try to hurt themselves or other people. And when I stopped working with kids in the field, I didn't find at that time that level of hypervigilance was exhausting at all. Keeping that level of hypervigilance was pretty normal to me, and I was used to it, and I didn't find it difficult to do. But now, I still occasionally provide respite for some kiddos who are at various points on the autism spectrum, and while I can do it, I haven't lost that skill. I can still do it and do it well, but I find it exhausting because it isn't something that I do frequently anymore. And it's the same idea with your kids. It's not that they can't do it. It's that they're out of practice and they aren't used to doing it quite so frequently anymore. So in sum, your kids are melting down because socializing is exhausting them much quicker than it typically would have before the pandemic. And while they're excited to see their friends, they're excited to get out of the house and to start engaging with some aspects of their life again, that doesn't change that doing those things is going to be very, very draining for them. So I suggest reintroducing yourselves to society slowly. As much as I know you want to run out and never go back, try and do it, gradually. If you've introduced a family to your social circle, meet up for like a 30-minute play date to start. Don't go straight to a full afternoon because that's unlikely to go well. Once that is going well, though, you can lengthen the time. At first, you might also want to have longer periods between socialization. So you might meet up for a 30-minute play date and then go a couple of days before trying it again. But as your kids get more proficient at socializing again, you can shorten those in-between times down till you can see people daily or even multiple times a day for longer periods of time. I also recommend keeping the demands outside of socializing pretty light on days that you're reintroducing yourselves to other people. So don't go planning a play date and then expect them to be able to come home and have them play independently and quietly for 2 hours while you're on a conference call. It's probably not going to happen. You might want to consider scheduling screen time during that call. Or if you're meeting people at the playground, don't expect them to be able to wait patiently once you're back home for food. They're going to be using all of their energy while they're out in public. So at home, you're likely going to actually have to compensate more for them than you were on a regular basis at home on those days. Once they get back into the swing of things, once things start to level out, then you can start fading your compensation at home. And finally, keep your eyes open for patterns in your child's behavior. If your child went into the pandemic with a weak skill and you haven't been actively supporting them in practicing that skill while they're at home, it's basically impossible that it's improved under these circumstances. So focusing on identifying and supporting their skill development through play will make reintegrating into society that much easier. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better you get at it. It doesn't take a ton of time. My clients generally see improvements in their child's skill use and therefore behavior with as little as like 10 minutes of practice a day. If that sounds scary and overwhelming, don't freak out. That's exactly what I walk you through doing in Parentability step by step. And you can get alerted to the next time that registration is open by putting your name on the wait list. And the link for that should be in the description, I believe. Hey, Catherine! Thanks for joining me. So what do you guys think? Do you have a bit more of a game plan for starting to reintroduce your kids to other people? Is this something that's causing you anxiety? Do you have other strategies that you've been using successfully? Share with the class. And come join us in the Parenting Posse to continue the conversation. Also, the link for joining that is in the description as well if you aren't already a member. Now, before we go, this is our second to last MudRoom at this time. MudRoom's not going anywhere. We're just switching time slots. Starting in July, we're moving the MudRoom to a new time at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. So July 8th is going to be our first show at the new time because July 1st, while it is a Wednesday, is also Canada Day. So July 8th, I'll see you here for our first show at the new time, but next week, I'll see you here for our last Uncommon Sense Parenting class at this time. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. I always love chatting with you guys, and I do come back and check them. Have a great evening. Bye.